Drinking alcohol, smoking, and drug use are harmful to health.
In the summer of 1960, the world was a simpler place, or so they told us. Finland's endless daylight stretched the evenings into eternity, and for 4 teenagers from Helsinki, the lure of freedom was irresistible. Niels Gustafsson, 18 and full of restless energy, had convinced his best friend, Seppo Boisman, to join him on a camping trip to Lake Bodom. It was a spot whispered about in schoolyards, beautiful, secluded, but off limits. The southern shore was private property, owned by a reclusive landowner who had posted signs warning of trespassers. Rumors swirled of old feuds, hidden graves from the war, and a madman who patrolled the woods with a knife. But to Niels and Seppo, it was just an adventure, a chance to escape the stifling city air. Niels's girlfriend, Irmeli Björklund, only 15, but wise beyond her years, hesitated at first. "It's trespassing, Niels," she said, her voice a soft murmur as they packed the motorcycles. "What if we get caught?" Her dark hair framed a face that could light up a room, but there was always a shadow in her eyes, a remnant of a troubled home life she rarely spoke about. Niels laughed it off, pulling her close. "Who's going to catch us? It's the middle of nowhere. Besides, Seppo's bringing Tuulikki. It'll be fun." Tuulikki, also 15, was Seppo's steady. Blonde and bubbly, she balanced Seppo's brooding intensity. Seppo at 18 was the quiet one, his broad shoulders hiding a history of scraps with local toughs. He nodded in agreement, revving his bike. "The signs are just to scare off kids. We've got beer, food, and the lake. What could go wrong?" They set off that afternoon, June 4th, the sun high and unrelenting. The ride to Espoo was bumpy, the dirt roads winding through dense forests that seemed to swallow the light. As they approached Lake Bodom, the signs appeared. Private property. No trespassing. Violators will be prosecuted. Faded red paint on wooden posts, some tilted from years of neglect. Niels slowed his motorcycle, glancing back at Irmeli, clinging to his waist. "See? No one's around." They pushed past the barriers, hiding their bikes in the underbrush before hiking down to the shore. The lake was a mirror of sapphire, ringed by pines that whispered in the breeze. A small peninsula jutted out, perfect for their tent. It was a 4-person canvas affair, weathered from previous outings. They pitched it in a clearing, the ground soft with pine needles. The air smelled of water and earth, a heady mix that made them feel alive. As evening fell, or what passed for evening in the perpetual twilight, they swam in the cool waters. Irmeli and Tuulikki splashed each other, their laughter echoing across the lake. Niels and Seppo dove deeper, racing to a buoy far out. "This place is paradise," Seppo shouted, water dripping from his hair. But as Niels surfaced, he caught a glimpse of movement on the far shore. A figure? Just a deer, he told himself. Back at camp, they built a small fire, roasting sausages and cracking open beers. The alcohol loosened tongues. Irmeli shared stories of her ex-boyfriend, a jealous type who'd once followed her home. "He swore he'd never let me go," she said with a shiver. Tuulikki rolled her eyes. "Boys are idiots." Seppo, ever the protector, wrapped an arm around her. "Not all of us." Niels felt a pang of unease. The woods seemed denser now, the trees closing in. "Did you hear that?" he asked suddenly. A rustle in the bushes. The group froze, but it was only a bird. They laughed it off, but the seed of doubt was planted. As the night deepened, around 11 p.m., though the sky was still a dusky blue, they retreated to the tent. The girls slipped into their pajamas, giggling over private jokes. Niels and Seppo lingered outside a while longer, angling from the bank. The lake lay calm, eerily motionless. "You ever ponder those tales?" Seppo asked, tossing his line. "The ones about the kiosk guy down the street? They say he's unhinged, slashes tents with a blade." Niels laughed it off. "Valdemar Gilstrom, he's just a boozer. Besides, we're not harming a soul." But as he pulled in his catch, he could have sworn he spotted a figure across the water, staring. He blinked, and it vanished. By 2 a.m., they all squeezed into the tent. Irmeli curled up against Niels, her breath soft on his neck. Seppo and Tuliki murmured on the other side. Sleep arrived in fits, the earth unyielding, the air muggy. Niels dreamed of darkness slinking nearer, fingers clawing through the fabric. It began with a noise, a branch cracking, intentional. Niels shifted, his eyes blinking open. The tent was shadowy, lit by the weak light outside. He glanced at his watch. 4 a.m. Irmeli murmured in her slumber. Another crack, nearer. Pulse racing, he unzipped the flap slightly and peeked out. The forest was quiet, but something felt off. The fire had faded to coals, and their gear looked untouched. "Probably a critter," he muttered to himself, zipping it shut. But then, a shape darkened the tent wall, stretched, humanoid. Niels went rigid, elbowing Seppo. "Hey, wake up. Someone's out there." Seppo groaned, propping up. "What?" Tuliki woke, rubbing her eyes. Irmeli gripped Niels's arm. "What's happening?" "Quiet," Niels whispered sharply. The shape shifted, prowling. Footsteps, faint but clear. "Intruders," a voice grumbled, deep and rough, from beyond. The group traded frightened looks. Was it the property owner? A hunter? Seppo snatched a flashlight, switching it on. "Who's there? We're just camping." No answer. The shape halted at the front flap. Then, a flash. Steel? A blade tore through the canvas with a rip that boomed like lightning. The girls shrieked. Mayhem exploded. The attacker shoved through the tear, a whirlwind of movement. He was a guy, maybe mid-30s, with tangled blonde hair and eyes like bottomless voids. Clad in a light jacket, crusted with mud, pants stuffed into boots. In one hand, a long knife. In the other, something hefty, a lead pipe. Seppo charged first, instinct driving him. "Back off!" He barreled into the man, through the growing slit, but the pipe slammed down on his shoulder. A nauseating snap. Seppo grunted, swinging punches. Tuliki rushed to assist, yanking at the intruder's arm. "Stop, please!" Niels yanked Irmeli away, his brain whirling. "Run! Out the back!" But the tent was crumpling, holes snapping under the brawl. The man stabbed frantically, nicking Tuliki in the throat. Blood spurted, warm and coppery. She choked, pressing the gash, eyes bulging in horror. Irmeli wailed, a shrill cry piercing the dawn. Niels pushed her toward the rear zipper, but the intruder whirled, blade slicing. It scored Niels's arm, a searing streak. He struck back, fist smashing the man's jaw. Agony burst in his hand, but adrenaline flooded him. Seppo was down now, the pipe crushing his temple. Blood clumped his hair, his body jerking. The man, face contorted in fury, muttered again. "Intruders, all of you, ruining my property." Was he the landowner? A keeper? His accent was regional, but his gaze screamed insanity. Tuliki collapsed, her blanket drenched crimson. The intruder grabbed her hair, yanking her head back for another blow. Irmeli broke free, crawling out the back. "Niels, help!" Niels followed, but the man was on him, pipe swinging. It caught Niels's jaw, stars bursting in his vision. He fell, the world spinning. Through the haze, he saw Irmeli running toward the woods, the man pursuing. "No," Niels croaked, staggering up. The chase was short. Irmeli tripped on roots, the man upon her. He stabbed repeatedly, her cries turning to gurgles. Niels reached them, tackling the intruder. They rolled, fists flying, Niels's knuckles bruised, bloodied from impacts. He grabbed a rock, smashing it down, but the man was stronger, pipe connecting with Niels's head. Blackness threatened. When Niels came to, the sky was lightening. Pain throbbed everywhere, jaw broken, head pounding. He crawled back to the tent, collapsing on the shredded canvas. Bodies beneath, Seppo, Tuliki, Irmeli, dragged back somehow. Blood everywhere, flies buzzing. His shoes, where were they? He vaguely remembered kicking them off in the fight, but they were gone, perhaps taken or lost in the chaos. Dazed, he waved at passers-by, birdwatchers, fishermen, but they fled, mistaking it for a brawl. Finally, help came. Sirens, questions, hospital lights. Amnesia blanketed the details, a merciful fog. But the horror lingered. In hypnotherapy sessions, fragments returned. The blonde hair, the knife, the pipe. A composite sketch circulated, resembling a local oddball, Hans Assmann. Or maybe Valdemar Gilstrom, the kiosk owner known for hating campers. Years passed. The case went cold, whispers of the Lake Bodom monster haunting Finland. Niels rebuilt his life, but the shadows never left. Then, in 2004, police knocked. New evidence, blood on his shoes, found yards away. Victim's blood, not his. Accusations flew. He was the killer, jealous rage over imagined slights. The trial was a nightmare, media frenzy dredging up the past. Niels protested innocence, his amnesia a shield. Eyewitnesses from that dawn testified to another man fleeing. DNA on a bloody towel. Fifth persons, male, unknown. Acquitted, but the stain remained. To this day, the trespasser's fate warns. Some lands are forbidden for a reason. The killer? Still out there, perhaps watching the shore, waiting for the next intruders. It was the summer of 1960, and Helsinki buzzed with the energy of youth. Niels Gustafsson, a tall, lanky 18-year-old with a mop of brown hair and a perpetual grin, worked part-time at a garage, fixing motorcycles. His life was simple: school, friends, and Irmeli. Irmeli Björklund, 15, was the girl who made his heart race. With her dark curls and sparkling eyes, she was the daughter of a strict factory worker, always sneaking out for adventures. "Life's too short for rules," she'd say, her voice a melody that soothed his worries. Seppo Boisman, Niels's best friend since childhood, was the opposite. Brooding, muscular, 18, and already scarred from street fights. He dated Tuliki Mäki, a blonde 15-year-old with a laugh that could light up the darkest room. The four of them were inseparable, a gang against the world. The idea for the trip came over beers at a local hangout. Lake Bodom, Seppo suggested, eyes gleaming. "It's got the best swimming, and no one's around this time of year." Niels hesitated. "Isn't that private land? Trespassing?" Seppo shrugged. "So what? The owner's an old recluse, never shows up. Signs are just for show. Come on, it'll be our secret spot." Irmeli bit her lip. "I've heard stories. People disappear there. War ghosts or something." Tuliki laughed. "Ghosts? Please, it's just a lake. Let's do it." They planned it meticulously. 2 motorcycles, packed with a tent, food, beer, and fishing gear. On June 4th, they set off, the sun warming their backs. The road to Espoo was scenic, fields giving way to forests. As they neared the lake, the signs appeared. No trespassing, private property, keep out. Rusty wires barred the path, but Seppo clipped them with pliers from his toolkit. See? Easy. They hid the bikes in bushes and hiked down a narrow trail. The air grew thick with pine scent, birds chirping overhead. The lake emerged, a vast expanse of blue, the peninsula inviting. "This is it," Niels said, dropping his pack. They set up the tent, a large canvas square, staking it firmly. The ground was soft, the view breathtaking. The afternoon passed in bliss. They swam, the water cold and refreshing. Irmeli and Tuulikki floated on their backs, talking about dreams. Irmeli wanted to be a nurse, Tuulikki a teacher. Niels and Seppo dived, competing who could hold their breath longer. "You're going down," Seppo teased, splashing. As they dried off, Niels noticed footprints in the mud, large, boot-like, not theirs. "Hunters?" he wondered aloud. Seppo dismissed it. "Probably old. Let's eat." They built a fire, grilling sausages and potatoes. Beer flowed, stories too. Irmeli spoke of her ex, a boy named Jukka, who had stalked her after the breakup. He sent letters, saying he'd find me no matter what. Tuulikki shivered. Creepy. Good riddance. Seppo shared tales of his fights, scars on his knuckles from bar brawls. Niels listened, but his mind wandered to the woods. The trees seemed to lean in, listening. As the sun dipped low, though light lingered, they played cards in the tent. Laughter filled the air, but a distant howl silenced them. "Wolf?" Tuulikki asked. "No wolves here," Seppo said, but his voice lacked conviction. Niels stepped out to pee, flashlight in hand. The forest was dark, branches like claws. He heard rustling, shone the light, eyes reflected back. Animal or human? He hurried back, heart racing. Inside, they settled. Irmeli cuddled Niels, her body warm. "I'm glad we're here," she whispered. "Me too," he lied, unease gnawing. Whispers in the night. Sleep was elusive. The tent was stuffy, the ground uneven. Around 2 a.m., Niels and Seppo stepped out for a smoke, fishing rods in hand. The lake lapped gently, stars faint in the twilight sky. "You think we're safe?" Niels asked. Seppo chuckled. "From what? Ghosts?" "No. People. This is trespassing. What if the owner finds us? Then we run. Relax, man." But as they cast lines, a figure appeared on the opposite shore. A man, silhouetted, staring. "Hey," Seppo called. The figure vanished into the trees. "Probably a fisherman," Niels said, but doubt crept in. Back in the tent, sleep came in fits. At 4 a.m., the first sound, a branch snapping. Niels woke, listening. Another snap, closer. "Seppo," he whispered. Seppo sat up. "What?" "Someone's out there." The girls woke, fear in their eyes. The footsteps circled, slow, deliberate. Then, the voice. "Trespassers. You don't belong here." Terror gripped them. Seppo grabbed the flashlight. "Show yourself." Silence. Then the slash. A knife tearing the canvas. The intruder burst in, his blonde hair wild and eyes blazing with madness. "Defilers," he snarled. Seppo lunged at him, fists swinging. The man retaliated with a metal pipe, the sickening crack of Seppo's rib echoing through the tent. Tuulikki screamed, snatching up a wooden stake. She thrust it toward him, but he spun around, his knife slashing into her arm. Niels grabbed Irmeli and dragged her out the back, bolting into the dark woods. Branches whipped their faces as they ran, hearts pounding. Behind them came the man's heavy footsteps and ragged breathing. "You can't hide," he roared. Irmeli stumbled, twisting her ankle. The man loomed over her, knife raised high. Niels charged, rock in hand, smashing it into the man's shoulder. They grappled in the dirt, rolling and struggling. The pipe came down on Niels's head. White pain exploded, his vision dimming. Irmeli's screams tore through the night as the knife fell again and again. Blood, so much blood. When Niels regained consciousness, agony throbbed through his jaw, his head spinning. The campsite was a wreck, the tent shredded, bodies scattered inside. Irmeli's mutilated form had been dragged back. Flies swarmed. His shoes were gone, his feet raw and bare. He staggered toward the shore, waving frantically at passing boats and distant people. "Help," he croaked, but they turned away in fear. Eventually, rescuers arrived. Hospital, questions, foggy answers, amnesia, years later, accusation, trial, doubt, acquittal. But the nightmare of that trespass lingered. On the evening of June 4th, 1960, in the lingering twilight, 4 teenagers from the outskirts of Helsinki set out for what they thought would be a weekend of freedom. Niels Gustafsson, 18, brimming with youthful recklessness, led the way. His girlfriend, 15-year-old Irmeli Björklund, clung to his waist on the motorcycle, her dark hair streaming in the wind. Behind them, Seppo Boisman, also 18, revved his bike with 15-year-old Tuulikki Mäki laughing over his shoulder. They were friends, lovers, dreamers, unaware that their decision to trespass on forbidden land would summon death to their camp. The plan began as a dare. Lake Bodom in Espoo was legendary among local kids. Its waters were clear as glass, its shoreline wrapped in dense pines that promised privacy. But it was private property, owned by a reclusive family who had posted signs for decades. No trespassing. Violators will be punished. Rumors swirled. Hidden war graves, a knife-wielding hermit, even curses left over from the Winter War. "It's just stories to scare people," Seppo had said over beers. "The owner's probably dead. Who's going to care?" Niels was hesitant. He was the cautious one, working at a garage to build a future with Irmeli. She dreamed of becoming a nurse, escaping her father's strict house. "What if we get caught?" she asked softly as they packed their gear. Tuulikki, bold and blonde, rolled her eyes. "Caught by who? Ghosts? Come on, it'll be fun. Swimming, stars, no adults." Seppo grinned, his broad shoulders shrugging off concern. "Exactly. We're not hurting anyone, just camping." They left Helsinki in the warm afternoon sun, winding through fields and forests. As they neared the lake, signs appeared, faded but ominous, nailed to trees. "Private. Keep out." A rusty chain blocked the dirt road. Seppo jumped off, pulling bolt cutters from his pack. "See? No lock. They don't mean it." Niels exchanged a look with Irmeli, who bit her lip. "This feels wrong." "It's fine," Seppo insisted, snapping the chain. "We'll be gone by Monday." They pushed the bikes down the trail and hid them in the undergrowth. The hike to the shore was short, but eerie. The woods thick, sunlight dappled through leaves, birds silent as if watching. The lake opened before them, a vast mirror reflecting the blue sky. A small peninsula jutted out, perfect for their camp. "This is it," Niels said, dropping his bag. The air smelled of pine and water, fresh and inviting. They pitched the tent, a large canvas 4-person model, its poles clanking as they hammered stakes into the soft earth. The clearing was ideal, with a view of the water and a natural screen of trees. "Home sweet home," Tuliki declared, unpacking sandwiches. As the afternoon wore on, they swam. The water was cold, shocking their skin, but exhilarating. Irmeli and Tuliki splashed each other, their laughter echoing across the lake. Niels and Seppo dove deeper, racing to touch the bottom. "Beat you!" Seppo shouted, surfacing with a gasp. Back on shore, they dried off around a small fire. Niels noticed footprints in the mud, large, fresh boot prints leading into the woods. "Someone's been here," he said, pointing. Seppo squatted to examine them. "Probably fishermen or deer hunters. Relax, Niels. You're always worrying." Irmeli shivered, wrapping a towel around her shoulders. "What if it's the owner? Or that kiosk guy everyone talks about? Valdemar something. They say he's crazy, hates campers." Tuliki laughed. "Gilstrom? He's just an old drunk running a stand down the road. My brother says he puts razor blades in apples for kids who steal, but he's harmless." They ate, the food tasting better in the open air. Beer cans cracked open, loosening tongues. Irmeli spoke of her home life, her father's rages, how she sneaked out to see Niels. "He'd kill me if he knew we were trespassing here." Seppo nodded, staring into the fire. "My old man was the same. Beat me for less. That's why I fight. Better to hit first." Tuliki leaned against him. "You're safe with us now." Niels felt a warmth in the group, but as the sun dipped lower, though the sky remained light in Finland's white nights, an unease settled. The woods seemed denser, the lake's surface too still. He thought he saw movement in the trees, a shadow flitting between trunks. "Did you see that?" The others looked. "Nothing," Seppo said. "Your imagination." They played cards as evening deepened, the light fading to a soft glow. Stories turned darker. Tuliki recounted a tale she'd heard. During the war, soldiers hid bodies in these woods. Some say their spirits guard the land, punishing trespassers. Irmeli hugged her knees. "Stop it, you're scaring me." Seppo smirked. "Or it's that German guy, Asman. Lives nearby. They say he's a spy or something. Blonde hair, creepy eyes. Killed a girl years ago." Niels shifted uncomfortably. "Enough. Let's sleep." They crammed into the tent around 11 p.m., the air humid. The girls changed into nightshirts, giggling about boys. Niels and Seppo stayed outside, a bit longer, smoking and fishing from the shore. The lake was silent, no ripples. "You think those stories are true?" Niels asked. Seppo exhaled smoke. "Nah, but if someone comes, I'll handle it." A rustle in the bushes made them freeze. Seppo shone his flashlight. Nothing but leaves. "Animal," he muttered. Back in the tent, sleep came slowly. Irmeli snuggled against Niels, her breath steady. Tuliki whispered to Seppo. Niels drifted off, dreaming of eyes watching from the dark. It began at 3 a.m. A twig snapped outside, sharp and deliberate. Niels woke, heart pounding. The tent was dim, lit by the faint external glow. He listened. Another snap, closer. Footsteps? He nudged Seppo. "Wake up. Something's out there." Seppo stirred, rubbing his eyes. "What time is it?" "Early. Listen." The girls woke, fear etching their faces. Tuliki clutched Seppo's arm. "Is it an animal?" The footsteps circled the tent, slow, methodical. Then a low mutter. "Trespassers. Defiling my land." terror froze them. Irmeli whimpered. "Oh God." Seppo grabbed the flashlight and a pocket knife. "Who's there? We're leaving at dawn." Silence. Then, the shadow fell across the canvas wall, tall, distorted. It paused at the flap. Irmeli's breath came in gasps. Niels's mind raced. The owner? A poacher? The mad kiosk man? The knife sliced through the tent with a horrific rip. The flap tore open, and the intruder lunged in. A man, mid-30s, blonde hair disheveled, eyes burning with rage. He wore a light jacket, dark pants, boots caked in mud. In one hand, a long blade. In the other, a heavy pipe. "You shouldn't be here," he snarled, voice gravelly, accent local but twisted. Seppo reacted first, tackling the man. "Get off us." They rolled, Seppo's knife flashing. The pipe swung, cracking against Seppo's shoulder. Bone crunched. Seppo grunted, punching the intruder's face. Blood sprayed from the man's nose. Tuulikki screamed, grabbing a tent stake. "Leave him alone!" She swung, hitting the man's arm. He turned, knife slashing. It caught her throat, a deep gash. Blood arced, soaking the sleeping bags. Tuulikki gurgled, hands pressing the wound, eyes wide in shock and pain. Irmeli shrieked, scrambling back. "Niels, run!" Niels pulled her toward the rear zipper, but the tent was collapsing, poles bending under the fight. The intruder shook off Seppo, pipe smashing down on Tuulikki's head. A dull thud, her body slumping. "No more screams," he muttered, as if to himself. Seppo roared, lunging again. The knife plunged into his chest, twisting. He gasped, leg kicking out, pinning Tuulikki's body. Blood pooled, metallic scent filling the air. Niels and Irmeli burst out the back, running into the woods. Branches clawed their skin, feet slipping on pine needles. "This way," Niels whispered, pulling her hand. The lake glittered to their left, but the trees offered cover. Behind, heavy footsteps crashed. "You can't escape. Trespassers die." Irmeli tripped on a root, ankle twisting with a pop. She cried out. The man was upon her, knife raised. "Please," she begged, hands up. Niels turned, grabbing a rock. "Get away from her." He smashed it into the man's shoulder. The intruder staggered, pipe swinging. It clipped Niels's jaw, pain exploding like fire. He fell, vision blurring. The man grabbed Irmeli's hair, yanking her head back. The knife descended. Once, twice, 3 times. Her screams turned to wet gasps, body convulsing. Blood spattered Niels's face, hot and sticky. He crawled forward, punching weakly. His knuckles bruised against the man's ribs. The pipe came down again, on Niels's head. Stars burst, darkness swallowing him. He woke to agony. Dawn light filtered through trees, birds chirping mockingly. His jaw throbbed, broken, head pounded with concussion. He staggered to the tent, collapsing on the shredded canvas. Beneath the bodies, Seppo, Tuulikki, Irmeli dragged back, her clothes torn, wounds gruesome. Stabs, bludgeons, defensive cuts on arms. Flies buzzed, laying eggs in the gashes. His shoes were gone, feet bare and bloody. He waved at passing birdwatchers, mumbling, "Help." But they fled, thinking it a drunken fight. Fishermen on the lake averted eyes. Finally, a swimmer found him, called police. Hospital lights, bandages, questions. Amnesia blanketed the night, a mercy. But fragments returned in dreams. The blonde hair, the pipe, the rage over trespassing. Investigations dragged. Suspects emerged. Valdemar Gielstrom, the kiosk owner, known for hating intruders, drowning himself years later after rumored confessions. Hans Assmann, a German with a shady past. hospitalized the next day with suspicious stains. But no proof. Decades later, 2004, police returned. DNA on Niels's shoes, victim's blood, accusations, jealousy, rage. The trial was hell, media painting him killer. But eyewitnesses saw another man fleeing. Unknown DNA on a bloody towel. Acquitted, but scarred. The lake still whispers. Trespass at your peril. The mad guardian waits.